Hey y'all, it's Rick here with Uncommon Communion. And yes, I am recording once again. I think this is the best way to do two things. Number one is play some more drums, right? If you watch the recording from Saturday, the 3rd of January, you saw that I am following the tradition that the First Nations translation with the Psalms puts into place. And if you don't know what I mean, stay with me. You're going to hear it. The second thing is, I came across an article that I wanted to share with you, and I'm going to share this in the notes. I encourage you to read the entire article, but I wanted to share with you the first and the last paragraph because I think they encapsulate well what we are facing right now in our nation of the United States of America. Before that, though, let us begin, as we always begin, recognizing and realizing and celebrating and living from the reality that we are always and everywhere in the holy presence of the more and each other. So, as I mentioned in the recording that I did on Saturday morning, we're in a very dangerous place. What the little dictator did with Venezuela is almost certainly illegal. It just doesn't make sense. And, again, if a leader of a country can go in and basically just kidnap somebody who is the leader of that country, what happens to the rule of law? What happens to international order? What just happens in general? And secondly, the United States government is set up so that Congress gives that power to the president. And already the dictator is talking about other countries and other places. And it is clear that he has this mindset, and it is a mob boss's mindset. If you ever watch a mafia movie, there's almost always that scene where the different mob bosses are meeting somewhere and they're carving up the territory, right? You get this piece and you get that piece and I get this piece. And that's what the dictator wants, is to have this hemisphere, North and South America, to do whatever he believes the United States is going to benefit from. Underscore, he believes. And his people believe. And that gets us to the article that I want to share with you, that I will share with you, from David Frum, who is a writer for The Atlantic. If you don't read The Atlantic, I really encourage you. It is probably my favorite publication outside of Substack. It's a little pricey, to be fair, but I think it is worth it because they have, I think, some of the best writing in the mainstream media. So here is what David Frum says, and I've heard him speak. He's on Substack a lot. Maybe you've heard him in an interview or a conversation, and I think he is quite astute, and I think this is very relevant for us. So he starts by saying, when Donald Trump claims a success, two things quickly happen. And he is writing this after the Venezuela kidnapping illegal action. From the pro-Trump side, the American people hear a huge and unanimous whoop of triumph because the Trump movement is a cult of personality with no consistent principles and no concern for truth. Many of its boosters don't care whether the success is real or phony. They don't care whether the advertised success actually happened the way Trump said it did. They don't care whether the so-called success achieves anything important or lasting. They don't care if there later turns out to be a corrupt underside. They celebrate peace plans that don't bring peace, trade deals that don't enhance trade. The Trump movement exists to glorify Trump in all his erratic mania. Results in the real world don't matter. So I think that covers ground that we are familiar with. And many estimates, many surveys point to about a third of the US population now in that category. And that is not the majority, right? The rest of us, the 70%, has some important things to say to us. And he ends the article with this. And again, I highly recommend you read the article. I'm going to give you a gift link to it, so you won't have to hit a paywall. You may have to log in or create an account to see it, but you shouldn't have to do any sort of a paywall. So here is what he says. Trump thrives on the ineffectiveness of his opponents. The military operation in Venezuela is a warning that Trump's imperial ambitions are growing. He's building himself a triumphal arch in Washington. He craves gaudy acts to justify his monument to himself. He announced his operation first on his own wacky social media platform, then on a phone call to Fox, as if his fan base were the only part of the nation to whom the president owed an explanation for his actions. Trump's ego poses clear and present dangers to American democracy and American world leadership. An ineffective anti-Trump movement is an indulgence American democracy cannot afford or accept. And that's where I think we need to be very mindful, because this year is going to be tough, y'all. We are going to have to stand taller and louder and more unified than we did even last year. Last year we were in shock and kind of disarray. We weren't yet coalesced into a movement, but there's movements now. Indivisible, 50-51, No Kings, many other movements. And we are going to have to stand tall, do the tough work of calling our representatives, calling our senators, protesting. Perhaps there will be boycotts, still shutdowns, slowdowns, whatever it might be. We must do that. And also, we must remember that the midterms are coming. We must find candidates that are explicitly going to speak up and organize against this corruption. That is going to be our only chance, is to get one or both houses of Congress back and do everything we can to investigate and to hold accountability. So, I know I mentioned drums, and I want to read the psalm. It is Psalm 4 today. And again, I read as I have been reading from the First Nations version. And as I mentioned in the post earlier today, the scripture itself talks about Salah, which is a musical notation. We don't know exactly what it meant in the time of the writing of the Psalms, but the First Nation translator has noted this as honor beat on the drum. And when that comes up, I will quietly beat on the drum. All right. So also, I am changing grandfather to grandmother. So note that as well. Hear me, grandmother, my creator. When I cry out to you, you are the one who knows when I am in the right and defends me. You have opened the way before me to escape my enemies. So take pity on me again and hear my prayer. Oh, you weak human being, says the Great Spirit, how long will you continue to twist the good and honorable things about me into an insult? Will you always love to swallow your own lies? How long will you follow worthless ways and speak with lying lips? Know this, grandmother has honored those who follow her ways by standing beside them. She hears when I send my voice to her. Tremble with anger, but do not let it turn into rage. When you lay down to sleep, be still. Speak gently to your heart and remain at peace. Give your ceremonial offerings to grandmother with a good heart and put all your trust in her. Many ask, who will bring us the good life? Show them, grandmother, by shining the light of your face on us. A good harvest of corn, beans, and squash is what many want, but it is the light of your face that makes my heart glad. Even when I am alone at night, I can sleep peacefully with no fear, for you alone are grandmother, the one who watches over me and keeps me safe. When I read that and thought about what I wanted to begin with the line that stood out for me is tremble with anger, but don't let it turn into rage. When you lay down to sleep, be still, speak gently to your heart, and remain at peace. Yeah, y'all, I think that is vital. And that's going to be even more important in 2026. We must get angry, but we must not let it consume us. We must not lose our heads in violence or recklessness or vindication or vindictiveness or any of that. And also, y'all, we must take care of ourselves so that we can lie down in peace and rest. If there's anything that is so significant in the Jewish tradition, and this would be the Jewish scriptures, what we as Christians may call the Old Testament, is this idea of Sabbath. Rest is essential. And again, there's so much evidence for that, of course. And we must also rest. We must not rest in our work per se. We must be vigilant and hold fast, as I have said. And at the same time, we also need to balance that with rest and self care and humor and good humor and good nature and all of those wonderful things. If there's anything the people of Portland showed us in standing up and against this regime, is that humor and absurdity and inflatable costumes and dance parties, all of that works. And it works to absolutely confuse the opposition. It works to mock them and point out their absurdity. And it also works because it helps us to release stress and to rest in the midst of this. All right, y'all, I am going to close with, as we've often closed, with the Serenity Prayer. If you know it, please say it with me. It's the we version. God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thy will, O God, not ours, be done. All right, y'all, be well, be bold, blessing and good. Hold fast, y'all.